Mirror. Emily. This side. Someone there. Bobby, move both of you this side. Someone there. Hello? Yes, sir. And those will start walking in just now and they'll start obstructing them. Okay, stand by.
Hi, how are you? Great. Also. We move. Okay. Okay, guys, we move back. We move back. We're moving back again. We move back.
So why did they put up?
We move back.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
move
live
back.
now, I can't.
Huh?
I'm live now. We are on already.
We are all like.
Even with the phone?
We are obstructing the people who are sitting on this.
So I was up in it up.
They're moving. We're
I'll
having.
move. I'll move.
Move your camera. About to do that, huh? Text me. Text me. Oh, you come. Christy, those seats are supposed to be free. Huh? They are for staff who are coming with the guests. So this whole line, there shouldn't be media there. The media can start here going back. And they shouldn't take this. Michael, there should be chairs.
On the same menu.
Give it to Melon.
Little 4.
Melon, only get a board.
Yeah.
Same height as yours. And then press the button when it's time.
I think when it starts, it just
Use that side. Use the other side.
Wait, ele live, ele live. Eu vou. Ele live. Mandando pra cá. Ele
Very soon, we want to cover again.
Okay with one adjustment.
Underneath, huh? But underneath, guys, you still have to climb. No, when it falls a bit like this, it will hook. They should move. You've spoken. Joey.
Excuse me, could we all ensure that we have our masks on and we wear them properly?
And wearing masks is to cover the nose and the mouth. Huh?
If there are people who don't have masks, we have some here. Anyone who needs a mask?
This one here. Do you want to change your mask?
You need a mask.
That's done in front of you. It seems to fall off.
Give us.
Sylvia.
Maybe there's something you press the line for me. Just yes, yes. It's like this.
This is just too thick. These are the best.
Yeah.
Nimepeka za chama series ya magari. I need to move behind. Yes. After I keep that.
Oh, the table is already there.
Not all, just
I have a cable.
it's just
Yeah.
We are focused in here, so for a start, everyone must wear their mask. If your mask is not properly worn, please also make sure that it's properly worn. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon once again, and let me take this opportunity to introduce the Chief Electoral Officer, as well as the permanent secretaries that have joined in this meeting today. You all know Mr. Christos Patrick Nshindano, who is the Chief Electoral Officer. He's being supported by the Permanent Secretary, Technical Services from Ministry of Health, Dr. Kenneth Malama. He's also being supported by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Mr. Amos Malutenga. We also have the Ministry of Local Government Permanent Secretary, Mr. Martin Ngulube. We have Mr. Mangato, who is the Director of Special Duties from DMMU, and obviously other staff from Ministries of Local Government, as well as Health. My name is Patricia Lukanga, Corporate Affairs Manager for Electoral Commission of Zambia, and my role is to simply coordinate through the process today. Without further ado, I would like to invite the Chief Electoral Officer to take us through what he has for us today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues from the media. Thank you for coming. Allow me to also recognize the presence of the Permanent Secretaries, Ministry of Health, Local Government, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and indeed EMMU that have joined us today. Good afternoon all, and welcome to today's briefing. It's always a pleasure to have you as we continue updating you on what is going on in the electoral cycle. Today you will notice that we have other ministries represented. This is because of the multi-sectoral nature of the issue we are discussing today. Yesterday, the Commission held a political party license committee meeting, which most of you here were in attendance and covered as news on your various platforms. The Commission normally meets political parties as a special segment of our stakeholder universe on their own. However, due to the nature of what we needed to communicate and in the spirit of transparency, we invited you media colleagues to be part of the proceedings. We believe such engagements need to be on public record and on various platforms so that it serves as a reference point. As some of you may recall, in yesterday's meeting, the Commission collaborated with the Ministry of Health, and together we put up a spirited presentation on the COVID-19 situation in the country. just to remind all of you, the Commission has been consistent with its messaging on COVID-19 as it pertains to various stakeholders. Yesterday's presentation augmented all our initial messaging and engagements on the standard operating procedures which have been put in place and which were also shared with all political parties about a month ago. The Commission asked all political parties present to make their submissions specifically on whether campaign rallies, which have been rated as super spreaders of the coronavirus, should go on or not. We received mixed feedback, as some were for the rallies, while others were not for the rallies. The Commission further engaged a cross-section of electoral stakeholders as it relates to the COVID-19, including members of the technical committee, in line with the multi-sectorial approach, to gather their views on the matter. At this point, let me quickly run you through the membership of the technical committee. We have the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Zambia National Public Health Institute, Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, Zambia Police, Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, Media Institute for Southern Africa, Water Aid, and indeed ourselves as the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has been leading on this process and will continue to do so. The Commission listened to the presentations and deliberations advanced in these meetings, having duly considered the submissions by the stakeholders. Today we have come back with a position following these engagements on what we consider to be the best for the country, citizens, and indeed the conduct of the 12th August 2021 general election. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commission would like to guide as follows. The Technical Committee, through the standard operating procedures, had earlier discouraged the holding of political rallies. That given, with the expert advice from the Ministry of Health on the current COVID-19 situation, which I'm sure most of you didn't even get an update this morning on the status and how things are prevailing, and I'm sure PS Health will be able to even provide further detail if need be on that situation. The Technical Committee has reviewed the guidelines with due consideration of public health and has recommended the suspension of campaign rallies. We would like to announce that the Commission is in support of this recommendation and has suspended campaign rallies with immediate effect. Let me repeat that. As a Commission, we would like to announce that we are in support of this recommendation by the Technical Committee and has since suspended campaign rallies with immediate effect. Important to note, it is the rallies that have been suspended, not campaigns. Please take this correctly, media colleagues, no misinformation. It is campaign rallies that have been suspended, not campaigns. There is a huge difference between the two. Campaigns will continue as provided for in law for the period stipulated before the pause, which is 3 months. We have done this within our jurisdiction as the body mandated to conduct elections and working with the relevant authorities to preside over all electoral matters in the country. Additionally, we have taken this action following the increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in Zambia, and the country has been in an alert state since March 2020. And I'm sure if you followed the statistics today, we should all be alarmed and be on alert to ensure that we don't make the situation degenerate. Given the conduct of political parties and their lack of adherence to COVID-19 guidelines, we have as a Commission, and indeed the key stakeholders, a moral obligation to safeguard the lives of the people. We further need to ensure that the environment does not deteriorate to facilitate the conduct of elections impossible. It is extremely important, and this is something that we also spoke to yesterday. The situation can easily deteriorate that will render the conduct of elections impossible. And we need to ensure that the polls this year are held in a conducive environment that does not undermine the credibility of the elections. The Commission, through engagements with the Technical Committee and indeed Ministry of Health, who is the authority in health matters, and in particular COVID-19, will continue to monitor and review the situation and provide updates to the stakeholders. Having said this, let me repeat our clarion call to all political parties to take this matter extremely seriously. We would like to remind all stakeholders that the issue at hand, as we have always indicated, is an issue of a matter of life and death and must be approached with utmost caution. Political parties must exhibit responsibility and indeed leadership and protect the lives of the Zambians. Let me also take this opportunity to make another clarion call, this time around, to the public and indeed the citizens to refrain from attending political party rallies. Please, please don't attend these rallies. It is your life at stake. And avoid large gatherings. As a commission, we are concerned about your lives and would like to see you turn up in large numbers to vote come August 12, 2021. Political parties are further guided to observe the 5 golden rules of COVID-19 when holding other activities, including indoor meetings, and these we all know, but given the status that we're in, allow me to just repeat these golden rules. The masking up, washing hands frequently, or using hand sanitizers, maintaining physical distance, avoid crowded places, and indeed stay at home where need be. Seek medical attention early if symptomatic. Please ensure that this is adhered to. Going forward, the Commission will urgently work with all political parties to conclude on the campaign schedules. As you know, the Commission is in charge of all campaign schedules during this period. We will conclude on the campaign schedules where all political parties are required to highlight their activities, which we will share with the Zambia Police. The campaign schedules should be submitted to the Electoral Commission and shared with Zambia Police to record and indeed monitoring, but also to facilitate for their operations as they campaign. And this is to, as a commission, to make sure that everybody has a level playing field. So please conclude your campaign schedules at your respective level in terms of the elections. Do submit those schedules to the commission in terms of what you intend to do. This is also a measure to mitigate electoral violence. If you do not submit this, you will go in an area where another political party is, and in the end, you will start clashing. And that is unacceptable. And the law will catch up. Like was alluded to, this time around, the Commission will endeavor, or will do, not even endeavor, implement the Electoral Code of Conduct to the latter. And if found wanting, you'll have yourself to blame. Political parties and other stakeholders should use appropriate campaign strategies, such as mobile public address systems, and this is we've already spoken to, distribution of flyers, political party materials, among others, ICT, radio, and so on. Those activities with minimal or no contact with the crowd. Including now the most popular door-to-door, ensure that that adheres to the laid down COVID guidelines. Do not turn the door-to-door into another rally. Please safeguard the lives of the people. Ensure minimal numbers ensure that you have all the people that are doing door-to-door are masked, sanitizing, and so on. Let's safeguard ourselves. Before I close, let me address you media colleagues about a very serious matter which we felt, if left unchecked, poses a risk for the country and indeed the credibility of the 12th August vote. And this, I'm talking about misinformation. You are the fourth estate, and as such, you need to help in the provision of truthful and accurate information. We are living in times when most people and the country are leveraging on technology in communicating, and we know that this is faster and smarter way of sharing information. As such, we need to handle information with utmost care. Taking a leaf from yesterday, fake news circulated online that the Electoral Commission of Zambia and indeed Zambia National Public Health Institute would be recommended postponing of elections in view of COVID-19. This does not in any way represent what was shared with the stakeholders, and I'm sure by now you are all aware that issues of elections are a constitutional matter, and no one just wakes up to postpone an election. This issue has been blown out of context, as we were simply advising stakeholders on the seriousness of the pandemic and the risk it poses to elections. Therefore, I would like to advise that the 2021 general election will go ahead as planned, and every well-meaning Zambian must treat the circulating misinformation with the highest contempt. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reiterate this point. The only way that elections can be postponed is if a state of emergency is invoked. And it is possible to get to a point of state of emergency if we are careless as a citizen, especially as it pertains to COVID-19. If cases become uncontrollable, we could get to a point of lockdown. We could get to a point where people now are not allowed to move and will be unable to conduct elections. Please, this is why before we get to that position where we are losing a lot of lives, where the Commission is losing a lot of its staff who are supposed to conduct these elections, where leaders start dying, and this is not unique to Zambia. If you look at the case of Congo-Brazzaville, you will see that you had leaders dying. If my statistics serve me correct, I think we had about 6 candidates dying as a result of COVID. They are interfacing with these crowds. They are equally at risk. Our staff at the Commission are equally at risk. They are interfacing. The general public is at risk. If anything, colleagues, take time to read and research, seek clarity on matters that may not be well understood, and the Commission will be on hand to provide that information. You have a duty to provide the nation with correct information, and let's work together so that we can deliver free, fair, credible elections come 12th August 2021. At this point, I thank you, and we'll invite questions, and please feel free to direct those questions at any of the permanent secretaries and indeed other members that are available today. I thank you.
Thank you, CEO. We are now in that period where you have to ask questions. You tell us your name, the media house you represent, and ask a question. So in that order of 3, I'll start with the lady behind here. Please introduce yourself and ask a question.
Thank you so much. My name is Esna Kimo from Spring TV. I have 2 questions for you, CEO. One being, looking at how the situation got yesterday when the question was posed as to what political parties are comfortable with. Don't you think this announcement is going to cause havoc in the political environment? Second question is, there are still a lot of questions surrounding how campaigns are going to be held in the prisons. Can kindly run us through how exactly that is going to be done?
Thank you. Let's get another question from the lady over here.
Thank you. I'm Virginia Chilongo from Movie TV. My question is for Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary, Dr. Kennedy Malama. I'm making reference to the speech given to us by the ECZ CEO. Previously, during the first and second wave, and probably even till now, for large gatherings, direction came from you that no more than 50 people should gather in a particular place. In certain circumstances, it could go up to 100, maybe 150. In this case, we've been told that the number of those that are going door to door should be at minimum. But I mean, the word minimum is quite relative. So my question is there a maximum number or a minimum number of people that should conduct door-to-door campaigns?
Let's get a question from the gentleman over here.
My name is Alfonso from the New Vision newspaper. My question goes to the CEO. Yesterday, Justice Chulu, chairperson for the ECZ, subjected the holding of the rally to a vote. And this vote tilted to those that were in support of holding rally. And this involves the key stakeholders, which are political parties. Now, how do we interpret the votes that were voted by those that wanted the rally? How do you interpret, or how do you take it?
For that question, we will allow the CEO and the PS to respond, and we will come back to get more questions.
Thank you. I think the first and last question are quite similar, going by what has been highlighted from yesterday's meeting, saying there was havoc, and then the vote which tilted to what you claim was in favor of holding rallies. The discussion at hand is not an issue of whether we need to hold rallies or who's in favor of what, how to hold rallies. The question at hand is what is the cases with regards to COVID-19 and what impact does that have on the conduct of elections. The same aspects to do with rallies. If you went ahead and held rallies, the same rallies could put a stop to the conduct of elections. And that must be understood very well. If the rallies, which have been identified as super spreaders, becomes a hindrance to the conduct of elections, they will undermine the credibility of the elections. If the Commission tomorrow, as a result of escalating cases, working with other stakeholders, makes a recommendation through health and others, and in likely event, a state of emergency is pronounced, do you know what the connotation of that would be? Politically, it does not sit well for the country. It does not send a correct perception. We have set the pause for 12th August, and as a Commission, we are determined and will ensure that the pause proceed as scheduled on 12th August. That can only be done through concerted effort. This is why we called for the meeting yesterday. After that meeting, like we have alluded to in my remarks, we further went on to talk to experts. And this is a common trend that you will see even in countries that did conduct elections in the midst of the pandemic and now are faced with consequences. Technical experts did provide guidance to what should be done, starting with developed countries, the US, India. They are on record, and this is why we're emphasizing you, the media, to work with the Commission. Technical experts did provide this advice, and it was not hidden. What do you see? Mass deaths, escalating. Should, as a Commission, only look at one side? We also have a responsibility to protect the lives of the citizens, to ensure that the elections are credible, and hence the decision that has been taken. It is not a political decision by any means. It is not meant to favor any political party or the other, as is being insinuated. This is a serious issue that all Zambians must take extremely seriously, especially our leaders. They can campaign, and we have indicated that they are free to campaign. There are many modes of campaigning. It is not just rallies. Honestly, do you want to kill your people just because you want to get a vote? I think that is irresponsible on the part of the Commission to allow that such a situation. As a Commission, we cannot proceed in that manner. We need to ensure that we are also responsible in the conduct of the election. The Commission is mandated to manage elections. And if technical experts provide information which is telling us that you will not be able to conduct credible elections in the direction we are heading, we need to heed to that. And this is where we have gone to learn. This was not an overnight decision. I'm sure if you've been following, a technical committee was put together so that this is not an issue of the Commission waking up and saying, no, let's not do this. It is well informed. The technical committee went through thorough information, informed by statistics. I'm sure Dr. Malama will re-echo the numbers today. They're extremely frightening. And if people are not seeing that, really, it leaves much to be desired. Let's save the lives of the people. Let's save the status of the country as a beacon of peace, as one that is known for upholding our democratic tenets, so that we have free, fair, and credible elections. And we are determined as a Commission. We don't want anything to come in the way of us holding these elections on 12th August. A lot has gone in. Let's ensure that it's done. And we all have to work together. How campaigns in prison will be conducted, I'll ask either Director Electoral Operations or Legal. Now we know that the Act is in place.
Thank you, CEO. The Act allowing prisoners to
come. Can you then come over here?
Get my voice.
No, stand there.
We want to capture. Yes, that's it.
Okay, you come and sit here.
Yes, yes,
Yes, yes.
Thank you. The Electoral Process Act was amended on 20 May 2021 via Act number 32 of 2021. So effectively, the amendment allows prisoners not only register, but also vote. And so the Act provides for distribution of campaign materials. Unfortunately, the Act, insofar as the Act is concerned, there is no issue of physical campaigns. But what the Act provides for is the distribution of campaign materials. And this is something that we are working with the prison authorities. As you would imagine, a correctional center, security concerns, and so once the final regulations are put in place, we will advise. But what is important to note is that the law has been amended, and as I indicated, the provision is for distribution of campaign materials, but no physical campaigns. Thank you.
And I'll call upon Dr. Malam.
Thank you very much, Chief Electoral Officer. You asked a specific question on door-to-door. The situation we are facing as a country is very dicey at the moment. Those of you who followed today's COVID-19 update, you remember that we informed the country that today, in the last 24 hours, we recorded 825 new cases of COVID-19. We also report 48 new admissions to our facilities, giving us a total of 184 people admitted countrywide. 70% of those are non-citizens. So indeed, we are seeing a situation where the total number of new cases in the last 1 week or so has continued to increase. 3 months ago we were able to project, and those of you who remember, we warned the country that the third wave is likely to engulf Zambia, informed by the laxity we've seen in this country. So the third wave is indeed with us. So we concur with the decision which has been made that this is not the time to have super spreader events, those which are likely to create a fertile ground for the spread of COVID-19. You were asking about door-to-door. Again, we ask the Zambians for reason to prepare. CEO has mentioned here that we don't want you to create a super spreader hiding in the door-to-door campaign. The whole idea is, can we adhere to the 5 golden rules even as you are doing your door-to-door campaign? At the end of the day, for us, is to promote saving lives, saving livelihoods, and indeed the economy of this country. You remember the peak of the second wave, this country almost came to its knees because industries were almost closing. Not that they were told to close, but they saw that the factories themselves were becoming conduits for infections. So we appeal to all of you. For us is to give information informed by evidence so that together we can protect this country. Yes, you referred to statutory instrument number 21, number 22, and 62. They are all drawing the strength from the Public Health Act, Cap 295 of the laws of Zambia. But at the end of the day, we can have all these pieces of legislation. What is important is ourselves as Zambians to see how we can prevent COVID-19 from spreading further. You've seen the situation in India. India is a big economy, it's a big country. The healthcare system in India is so strong, we can't compare to our healthcare system. But you saw how India was overwhelmed, it has been overwhelmed. Even today, India is recording 4,000 deaths in a day minimum. We don't have that capacity. So for us is to provide information to the nation and give the correct signals, and posterity will judge us. Because we're at a time where in the coming weeks to months, the landscape can change in terms of new cases. For us, when we reach 500 patients admitted in this country from COVID-19, we're overstretched. And today we're at 184. So CEO, just to amplify that, and to the media, please, you are the game changers to this process. Making right decisions at individual level, family level, community level. 5 golden rules, and going beyond the 5 golden rules. When you are invited to a super spreader event, could be a meeting or any social gathering, think twice. Because what we are seeing now, the COVID-19 we are seeing, is where the whole household is affected. Second wave, you could see one person in a household, but this one seems to be more ferocious than the first and second wave. And also when we look at the clinical picture in our hospitals, things are happening much faster than they did during the second wave. Next week we'll be able to share with the country. You compare the first wave, second wave, and third wave, and you see that this third wave is far much ahead. Even 2 weeks within it, about that, the statistics we are seeing are far much higher than what we saw. So that will be my amplification. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's get another round of questions. I'll ask the lady, the gentleman, and is that okay? Great. So let's go on to that one. Kindly speak up, and please wear your mask even as you speak.
Thank you so much. Mr. Shindano, just a follow-up to the suspension of political rallies. It is the suspension. I just want to find out if at some point are going to uplift the suspension. And then secondly, I'd like to clear some allegations that one of the UPN in another constituency candidates produced the not original retrop certificates, did not manage for him, but a PF from Nomesi, I think, did for him. I just want to find out if why the other one was the original certificate was not, the one we had was allowed to for him. And then I want to find out how ready are you as the commission to tomorrow's case where an independent has petitioned that you actually validated our questionable papers.
Thank you. Let's get the next question.
My name is Mangaila, I read for the American Court. I have two questions, one for the CEO and one for the Minister of Health. I'll begin for the Minister of Health. The original idea for the golden rules was to protect people. And now allowing people to be following those who try to stay home to avoid getting COVID is endangering them. Kindly clarify, those people that will be going to our homes to campaign, will they also be obtaining some kind of certification that they are safe to come to our homes? Because in an event that one person has the COVID, it is not known, and they come to our home, and come and infect those people, and those people go to infect their neighbors, who is bring the kind of what? The disease to be there. Then the other one is for the CO. You have not indicated, or made by mistake, can you clarify whether or not you have made the list of nomination centers?
Okay, Shumina, you can ask your question. We'll get
List
responses
of
there.
nomination centers. The list of nomination centers. Sir? The list of nomination centers.
Chairman from Down TV. My question goes to CEO. Just a concern before the president about yesterday's story. I think CEO came from your mouth on condition that if cases are uncontrolled in the country, then there could be those thoughts of postponing the elections. I think painting us in.
I think you haven't seen the story.
Most of us wrote that it was a condition that if cases are uncontrollable, then there could be that move.
No, the one I'm referring to is the one where reference is made to Professor Mkonka, clearly indicating that the commission
maybe others may have written it differently, but there were conditions there. I was there, he did mention it, sir.
No, he didn't.
He didn't mention it, sir.
Please let's not get into a debate. Please produce a video to us if you like.
My question is, the first question is on when is the commission publishing the number of all successive candidates? I think people want to be aware of who has filed in successively. Then the other question is regarding the issue to do with physical publication of what people own before being put in office. I think that if you look at the Constitution, we have Article 52 and clause 3. It says information contained in a nomination paper and the affidavit shall be published by the Electoral Commission as prescribed. The issue to do with the presidential candidates, them telling the public what they own before they get into power. I think according to the Constitution, it's clear that the public must be aware. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll allow for responses and we'll come back to take the last round.
Let me allow Dr. Rama to start.
Thank you very much to you. If we want to make our lives complicated, we can make them. Door-to-door is door-to-door. The whole purpose the door-to-door is being encouraged, informed by the technical committee, is to avoid creating gatherings within those households. So the principles are: number one, the one who is going to deliver the key message about their party or any other relevant information has to make sure that they are abiding to the 5 golden rules. As CEO said, it means they have to mask up and ensure that all the tenets of the 5 golden rules are adhered to. And those who are being talked to, they should also follow the same. They should even practice physical distancing. So when you go to most of our households, it will be apparent if people are not adhering to what has been guided in terms of creating the gatherings while you are doing door-to-door. So the principle is, even as you do door-to-door, can we ensure that we adhere to the 5 golden rules and avoid putting your lives at risk? You know, you can make it very complicated or you can make it easier to implement. We've seen this successfully done. You know, from the religious angle, people do conduct door-to-door and they've done it successfully without necessarily attracting huge gatherings. You know, technically we give guidance and it's our expectation that people will follow it to save lives. you don't want, you go against it and put the lives of the people at stake and start losing lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. List of nomination centers. Not sure in the context you're asking, because this has been overtaken. Unless you are asking something else. Because we are past nominations. And it was made public, in case that's what you're asking, whether this information was made public. Yes, it was made public. There was a list of nomination centers that was put out and was circulated. It was even on our website. There was a question with regards to suspension of political party rallies. Will we lift? Yes, I think we've been very categorical in my address. We did say that we will be observing the situation as it evolves, which we have been doing since the technical committee was put in place. So we're following the experts' advice that will be rendered. This is a suspension, it's not a ban. So if the situation warrants that the suspension be lifted, it will be lifted. But as it stands now, the situation warrants that the suspension be upheld, and please, it is with immediate effect. Don't get into conflict with the law and start creating unnecessary acrimony. Let's just do what needs to be done. It is for the good of the nation. And let's for once, please, take full responsibility. As we made a clarion call yesterday, this is a time for collective responsibility. It's not about party A, party B, or what the commission is doing. It is about the well-being of our nation, the lives of our loved ones. And for those that have lost loved ones, you will attest to this fact. This is no laughing matter. It's not an issue we should really even be debating upon. As a commission, we're even disappointed. We would have expected that our leaders would have been in the forefront, would have been ambassadors of this fact. And this is why we even mentioned that let COVID-19 be part of the campaign messages of all the political leaders. Let them lead by example in this fight. The issue to do with PF filed in UPND was stopped. I'm not sure about. Council, are you able to speak to this matter? Has it come to your attention?
Not exactly. Although, like she has indicated, I get the impression that our colleague is making reference to matters that before the courts of law. And I know we have a number of nomination challenges, but it will be unprofessional for us to start discussing matters that are before the courts of law. However, if you could give me details so that I could verify the information, but otherwise, it will be professional for us to start discussing matters that are before.
Thank you. The process does provide for petitions, and I think it was very well highlighted during the nomination calendar and also communicated to the media. After nomination, there is a window of 7 days where one can raise petitions against, or indeed raise concerns where a candidate has wrongly been addressed. And we have a few cases of those. Those that will be successful, they will be allowed to proceed if the legal route does guide that we accept those nominations. Those that are not, unfortunately, will not be able to do that. So depending on the merit of the case, it will be heard within the jurisdiction of the provided legal framework. Also responds to the question you said, validated our question papers, the independent case coming up. Unfortunately, we don't comment, I'm sure you know very well, on matters that are before the court. Council will be the first one to cite me. Number of successful candidates nominated. I know a lot of people are eager to hear this. Like I said, the process does provide for petitions. So before we issue out the consolidated number, we need to ensure that that window elapses. because one might be on the list and the courts nullifies that such a nomination. When they drop, will be accused of all sorts of things. We are very alive to the issues of misinformation, and I'll also ask PS Information to speak to this. So once that window lapses, firstly to mention that the 7-day window for petition has elapsed now, has matured, right, Franz? From the from the time of nomination, so the 7-day has elapsed. So those cases now that were raised as under petition, or whatever the issue is, will have to be concluded within 21 days. So that window is still alive. So after that is concluded, that's when we'll have a consolidated list of all validly nominated candidates, and this will be made public. Asset declaration, would you like to speak to that as well?
Okay, thank you, Theo. The request. No, please, stand. The reference has been made to the requirement for declaration of assets. I'm aware that there was a provision under Article 34, Sub-Article 5 of the repealed Constitution of 1996. It made provision for candidates to declare. However, under the 2016 Constitution, there is no such a provision. And as such, as a commission, we have no powers whatsoever to declare, publicly make known assets that have been declared by candidates. I hope I've clarified the issue. It keeps coming up. Take note that it was under, it's a provision that was under the repealed Constitution, and I can only imagine it was for a good reason that it was not retained under the 2016 Constitution.
Thank you. Let me ask Mr. Benga to speak to the issues of misinformation.
Thank you very much, Theo. I think that is a very critical issue that the CEO raised, particularly at this moment where we are. This is a very emotive subject or topic. The emotions are rising every day. Depending on how we report, we can easily set the country on fire. I know my colleague Chimunya was trying to defend maybe how Diamond reported, but the CEO speaking generally, he did not accuse any particular institution. He was trying to remind us of the serious role that we have as journalists, because we inform the public. So he was merely cautioning us that as we report, particularly in this season, let's ensure that we are very accurate, because any slight miss can set the country ablaze. I'm sure all of us listened to the debates on the various channels, radio channels in the morning, and what was being discussed clearly was that the ECZ have actually indicated that the elections will be postponed because of COVID. And some of you may have even listened to Hot FM, where State Counsel John Sangwa was asked to give his legal opinion on that matter. And when they asked him that question, he threw it back to the journalist. He said, that is the question you should have asked Mr. Shindano. What powers does he have to postpone an election? So you can see that that kind of debate was triggered by some kind of information, either in the mainstream media or in social media. And that is why we have to remind ourselves as journalists that we have a very critical role, and we have to be very accurate, very objective, but more importantly, we have to understand the context. We have to report issues in their proper context. And I think this is where usually we have a problem, because sometimes as journalists we have that temptation to interpret what has been said. My interpretation of this statement may not necessarily be his interpretation. And once we start interpreting, we are bearing on that edge now, somehow expressing our opinions. And that is why now we will go into those discussions. I didn't say it. No, you said it. So let's remind ourselves of what is expected of us in terms of accuracy, which is very critical at this stage. More importantly, context. I may have said this, but in what context did I say it? And I think that is what is important, because if the context is lost, the meaning is also lost. So I want to join the CEO in reminding the journalist of the critical role that you have. You are hearing now that campaigns are going to, rallies are going to be suspended. What that means is that most of the campaigns will have to be done through the various media platforms. They may be radio, it may be TV, it may be other media platforms. And so the way we are going to communicate will either calm the country or push the country into turmoil. So it's a clarion call to you colleagues that let's be very accurate and let's be objective. More importantly, let's understand the context in which someone is speaking. If it's a joke, I keep saying this, if it's a joke, portray it as a joke. If someone is doing chimbuya, portray it as chimbuya arrangement, and people understand. In the Zambian context, they know that members and the people from the east, they do chimbuya. So even if I say certain things against PS in Ngurube, me who is coming from Luapula, I can get away with certain things because we are doing chimbuya. But I cannot say something with someone who is not my tribal cousin. So when we report, it has to reflect this was a joke, this was a light moment, because sometimes the light moment is reported in a serious manner and debate is provoked. I don't want to give specific examples, but the point is that let's just be cautious as we report. This is a very sensitive period. Emotions will be very high. We don't want to be party to the people who are going to cause turmoil, who are going to set the country on fire. As communicators, we want to calm the temperature, the political temperature, by just ensuring that we inform the electorate so that they can make informed decisions as they go to vote. Let's not inflame or incite the public. I thought I would just make that. Thank you, CEO.
I'll get the last round of questions. 1, 2, 3, in that order.
Thank you very much. My name is Nicholas Moya from National Bank. CEO, I want to find out if there are any guidelines, conditions that you have set up for people that are coming to monitor elections, especially from outside.
Can we get the next question?
Good afternoon. This is also. I just want to take your back. I was thinking, holding of a political campaign is just one of the events that is a spread for COVID-19. But why have you quickly jumped into suspending the campaign with other activities like going to churches, markets, buses? They are all unregulated at the moment. Don't you think maybe other political parties are going to feel like they're trying to saturate more?
Okay, so before you even get off the floor, I want to provide clarity to you. Campaigns have not been suspended, but rallies. This is what we are talking about. Imagine if you are writing and that is what goes out. So did you mean the suspension of campaigns or rallies?
Suspension of holding of
you said political rallies. So we get it correctly, it's the political rallies, right?
Yes, political rallies.
Thank you. Let's get the last question.
My question is, in case we have political parties that will decide to vote what are some of the measures that you have put in place, or how are you going to work with the police to ensure that the suspension is upheld by all police departments?
The PS. I'd like to find out if the Ministry of Health will consider wearing of masks and mandatory if the cases of COVID-19 continue to soar. Thank you.
Do I take it up as the last question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. In terms of international observers, there are always guidelines that guide international observers, and we do work also with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As you know, international observers, it is a coordinated activity between Ministry of Foreign Affairs and ourselves. So a respective country or an international entity will apply to the country of intent to come and observe, and will be able to respond accepting that intent. And in addition to those guidelines, we are also integrating COVID guidelines as provided for in our protocol. So there will be very clear COVID guidelines, including real-time PCR. Maybe Dr. Malama can speak to that, which have also been integrated now for all those that are traveling. Suspended rallies when other activities are unregulated, I think that is the wrong aspect. I also ask Dr. Malama to speak to that, what measures are in place. And moving forward in view of the increased cases, what is being put in place. So it's not an issue of just singling out rallies. And this is why we are saying, please, let's work together. Rallies is one of those that has been identified as a super spreader. Firstly, it involves crowds. Secondly, we all know the nature of our rallies. They are migratory. Migratory in that political parties ferry cadres from one place to the other. That is a very sure way of transmitting the different strains from Lusaka to another point, from that point to another point. So we need to be extremely careful how we manage this issue. And like we had indicated yesterday, the Commission is interested in ensuring that all electoral activities are conducted in adherence to the COVID-19 guidelines. That's why the standard operating procedures are in reference to elections. They are not in reference to conduct of markets. They are in reference to elections. And I'm sure the respective institutions can speak to those. What happens if political parties decide to go for rallies? Firstly, the starting point is, as a commission, we are appealing to leaders. It is time to demonstrate leadership. In honesty, I don't see any well-meaning leader who wants to kill their citizens. This is an appeal, a call to them. Canvass your votes in a safe environment. Ensure that the same people that you want to lead are safe and alive. Ensure that the well-being of our country is taken care of. This is not in the interest of the Commission or a particular individual. This is in the interest of the country. And I believe this is why all those that are contending for different or various positions or electable positions are doing so, is to better the lives of our people, including the country in its entirety. What highest way of doing that than saving the lives of those same people? So I hope that as a commission will not get to a point where impossibility becomes an issue. But if that be the case, there are SIs which were alluded to under the Ministry of Health that guide the conduct of the public, especially as it pertains to gatherings, that what needs to be done. And indeed, one flaunting those is in breach of those laws, and the respective laws will catch up with an individual. This is why we have said as a commission, moving forward, let's ensure that the campaign schedules are now concluded, what activities one is going to do, so that those campaign activities are communicated to the police, so that one is accorded the required support as well as security to undertake their activities in a free and fair manner, so that we create a level playing field. Let's ensure that the credibility of our polls is upheld. It is very, very important. And we need to work together to achieve that. I'll call upon Dr. Malama at this point.
Thank you very much. We are in an unprecedented time. Never in the history of this country did you have to make such decisions from the public health security point of view. You remember the peak of the second wave, we lost 23 people in a day. It's possible this third wave, the way things are evolving. So when we give advice, it's informed by evidence. Those who be coming to monitor elections, they have to follow the set guidelines. We do have the point of entry surveillance guidelines, so they will follow those, depending on where you're coming from. But the guiding principles are very clear. You need to come in with a SARS-CoV-2 negative certificate. And we're also ramping up testing at the points of entry. And while in the country, we're expected to adhere to the public health guidelines. So, as CEO said, that's as simple as it is. And in the coming weeks or so, we ensure that at the points of entry, we place the real-time PCR so that we can test and get results quickly. Not only for those coming to monitor elections, but all the travelers coming to Zambia. You were asking about mandatory masking. Why do we always wait to be forced to do something which will save your life? Just mask up consistently and collectively, and you save your life and those close to you. Yes, there's a possibility of mandatory masking. You can issue a statutory instrument. But the question is, how many statutory instruments are you going to issue just to make people behave as expected? So for us as the health sector and the multi-sector response, we continue appealing to our people, mask up all the time and correctly, and save life. A statutory instrument is a possibility, but I think sometimes it's good just to change our behaviors and avoid the punitive action of being coerced. Thank you very much.
Maybe local government, just to give an opportunity, if there's anything that you want to bring to the table, and we also have him present and engage any of the members that are present today.
Everything's okay.
Thank you so much, CEO. I think ours as the disaster management and mitigation unit is a known fact. Our role and as a co-mandate is the multi-sector coordination of all national emergencies in the country. So wherever there's an imminence of an emergency, we have a responsibility as disaster management and mitigation unit to romp up all the key government institutions, including non-government institutions, to come on board and ensure plans are prepared to respond to any imminent emergency. We have been part and parcel of the fight against COVID from the first wave, second wave, and now the third wave that we are in. And I'm sure some of the media organizations have been following the activities that we've been doing as DMMU. So being part and parcel of the technical committee at ECZ should not be strange. We are just operating within our mandate, and we've made it very, very clear that we are going to provide that support that is required by the ECZ at all the polling stations, even prior to poll day. We ensure that materials are placed at each and every polling station as part of preparedness, because that is what our mandate speaks to. So basically, that is what we are going to do. So we are not deviating from our mandate. We are within our mandate as a national emergency preparedness and response organization of government. Thank you, CEO.
So thank you very much. Allow CEO and Mr. Torres to leave before you come to pick your folders and phones for your speakers. Rafael is over there. He will be able to share with you.
How much?
No, don't talk nicely.
You saw that, how much?
Yeah, you did a lot of work. Grateful. Thank you.
Because I think this one needed to come from us, you know what I mean? Because I feel